All right. Well, good afternoon. Tech Tuesday, the last one for the year. So we took a couple of days off, or a couple of weeks off, I guess I should say.
A couple of Tech Tuesdays off, I guess.
Yes. We didn't actually. No, the days off will start this week, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our last one. If you've got questions, please drop them in there. We'd much rather answer your questions as always, but I do have a few pulled out and queued up, and we can dive in. So we close this Saturday for any of you guys that are around here looking to come in. This Saturday is the last day for the year. Of course, I always caveat that, especially when we're talking about tech stuff. If you've got emergencies, you can try calling. I'd probably recommend if you message us on the landline, send us a text, or message us through socials. There's a chance, no promises, but there is a chance that maybe we can do something to help you out if you've got an emergency. Because
I'm probably not going to tell you when, though. So,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll answer some questions, but it's not going to be any time.
But while we are technically closed, trust me, most days, even through the holidays, we'll have guys up here doing something. So we've got a number of projects, expansion going on in the loft. So that has been fun, which of course that opens up the door if you are looking for some Christmas presents. One major thing, we got loose rods are cost plus $10 plus tax, and now the one thing is we can't ship those. We're not in the business of shipping rods. They're too much trouble.
Yeah, and then all sales are final on those because they're clearancing them out. And if you have an issue, they still have warranty. You just have to do it through Lose.
But it's a great opportunity. We're doing, if you spend $50 in the loft, you can pick out free tackle. We've got a wall, so with that expansion, we've got to make room for some of the construction that's going on. It's actually some good stuff on the clearance wall. I think where the crankbaits are going pretty quick, and that's including if you do a $50 gift card, you can still pick out some free tackle. And then missile baits let us pick one item that we could do 30% off, and we picked the D bombs, and so you can get 30% off missile. And fortunately, our friends over at Spear Point did not want to be outdone, and so if you buy D bombs at 30% off, Spear Point will give you 30% off on all their Spear Point, which are pretty sweet hooks. Perfect combo with the D bomb. So
Right.
I think that's, I don't know. We've got we got a lot of good stuff. Oh, kayak guys, 10% off, and we're gonna hook you up with a loose rod now until we close. So and then we do have, if you're in the market for boats, we're doing some discounts. I think up to $2,000 in-house rebate we've got going through Saturday. So, all right. Sorry, that's as we get so much laundry list. I feel like we're making a giant commercial. So,
Right.
all right, let's jump in. I see a question in there. First, I'm gonna start us out because I posted yesterday. If you had questions, and we had one question thrown in. So I'm gonna bring that up there. So Terrell asks, how hard is it to replace the water pump on a 90 horsepower Mercury?
Okay, well, so I will start this off by saying that recently we had a guy come in and he replaced the water pump on his 150 Mercury. It's kind of the same procedure, and he decided to do it himself. He's a pretty handy guy. Well, he took it back out. Wasn't overheating. He was just going to do general maintenance, and by the time he got done with it, it was overheating. And so he brought it to us in a frantic, in a panic, and wanted us to help him fix what he broke.
Mm.
So he got it all back on there, but and he actually was pretty close to having it right, but he put one extra part somewhere it didn't go, and it just messed the whole deal up for him. So it can be simple to do the process of taking it off, putting it back on, but sometimes you get lost in there somewhere. You may put those, in particular that one, Some other ones you can put a gasket upside down. It looks like it goes there, and it'll cut some of the water flow off. I've had that happen. So I guess with that being said, it's easy to do if you have the experience, but it can become a headache and a very big like beat your head up against the wall, pull your hair out kind of deal by the time it's over with if you haven't had any experience with it. So,
all right. Well, yeah. So that's why I don't
there's
even
two-edged sword there. So.
I don't try to tackle most of that stuff. So usually I end up like that guy if I do. So I'll stick with computers. All right. Got one question about Shimano. We do not carry Shimano
Yet.
Yeah.
We may in the future, but we do have some we do have some suppliers that do have the Shimano Titaniums, and so if you really want one, we can probably get one through some of those suppliers. We're actually thinking about getting a short list of some Shimanos to get for right now and see if it's something we want to pick up in the future, because we are dropping loose, and so we are going to be picking a few other lines up, maybe Abu Garcia and Shimano may be one of the ones we end up picking up. So if you are interested and you want to get it from us, just let us know and exactly what you want, and if we have a supplier that we're ordering some stuff from, we may pick some of those up.
All right. Yeah, we've had the probably the biggest limitation on the tackle store has been space and wall space for hanging all that kind of stuff, which is why there's an expansion going on. So cool to see what more you guys drag in. All right, Trevor. Difference between a Fury and a Tempest. If you have a 24 Fury, what is equivalent in the Tempest?
Well, usually a Tempest is probably, I'm trying to think, it's one or the other. I'm trying to remember. So if you have a 23 Tempest, you usually want to go up to a 24 Fury, I think is typically what I've seen. I know the Tempest has got a little bit more cup in the ears, tends to lift a little bit more. The Fury is made out of a different metal, a different alloy, and it is basically balanced from the factory, where the Tempest is not. And that's supposedly supposed to give you about a mile an hour more speed. But if you nick that blade, it's done. Okay, you can scratch your Tempest up and beat it up a little bit, and it'll still hold up and perform for the most part. Like it may lose it a mile an hour or two. You hit a Tempest, you usually lose about 4 or 5, maybe 6 mile an hour, depending on how bad it bends and they bend. So, if you're in deep water all the time, you never hit anything, it's a great prop. If you hit stuff, if you're a shallow guy getting there deep, churning up mud, I would say go with a Tempest.
All right. Well, guys, so I see some of you watching. As always, if you got a question, drop it in. And if you have dropped it in, I should have covered this earlier. Make sure you go into our actual post. So if you're watching in a group or something like that, if it's shared, then that won't show up
live. Yeah.
That won't show up. So, all right, here we go. It's a lot more fun to just talk with you guys. And this is our last one for the year, so we got to do good. All right, bass fishing. Who do you recommend for prop refurbishment?
I would probably say either Lanier or Croxton. There's one in Tennessee. I think it's called Tennessee Prop Works or something like that. I've been told that they do a pretty good job. So, but I'd be careful depending on the prop you have. If you have a Tempest, you really have to be. I mean, a Fury, you have to be real careful because that alloy. A lot of people don't have the stuff to deal with it, and it'll come back really, really bad. But Croxton and Lanier seem to do a pretty good job with them. So, critical props, we haven't been sending them off ourselves. We've just been telling the customers to send them off. So, but that's the only ones I know about right now.
All right. Or the only ones that you trust?
Yeah, I mean, I try to go by what other people tell me.
Right.
You know, I've not sent one to them and ran it on my boat. But I will say that if you send one off and they rework it, they thin the ears out, blueprint it, with the type of jack plates people are running, hydraulic and stuff, the more you have one refurbished, the more likely you're going to sling an ear off. Just just be aware. If it happens, don't be surprised.
Gotcha. All right. Pull this out of the Avid group. This is a quickie. Looking put a 12-inch screen on the bow. I'm not sure whether he's talking XB or the FS, but what mounts do you guys like for the Avids?
I probably would at this point. What I put on mine, I put a Nurko mount on there. I mean, we've been using a bunch of different ones. I think the most popular one used, and a lot of them are on like a Skeeter, is the what is it? The Precision Sonar, Bass Boat Technologies, and what's the other one? There's another one but probably Precision Sonar we use the most. But I've been kind of leaning towards this Nurko mount. It's been really nice. So it's kind of like a balls out, but you get a little bit more adjustment. Now the balls out, it's got these little, I guess, little indentions, and you only got so much movement.
Yeah.
And that Nurko has a little bit different type of connector there, but the clocking is a little bit, more refined, I guess. So.
Well, okay, so this was a comment made on a previous video. Sorry, it's an eye chart, and I'm going to try to sum this up. Basically, he's saying, so obviously this was an episode where we were talking a lot about lithium batteries, which is like half of the episodes. So, but he's talking about if you're running 3 12-volt lithiums, if you're going to run 3 in series, I don't know if we said something or you said something about if you have a battery that goes bad and you just replace that one. He's bringing up a concern that he's heard that you really need to not mix batteries, and that you need to maintain as similar a charge between lithium batteries as possible.
Yeah.
And then he followed up with having a house battery to jumpstart the starting battery, and carrying a NOCO, N-O-C-O, or a Hulkman jump pack. So just wanted to follow up on his comment on one of our previous episodes.
Well, I would I'd start off with the best way to run the lithiums, and I get this from several manufacturers, and some of them will disagree because they only sell the 12-volt versions of them, and I understand why they would disagree, but I would say the most stable platform is going to be running just a 36 volt, and I would run 2 in parallel.
Okay.
That way, if you do have one go bad, you have 36 volt battery left over while you send one off. And I know several people running just one, and it seems to do fine for what they're doing, and they fish a lot. But it is nice to have that backup.
And you do get more amp hours with 2 batteries.
Yeah.
Just in case. So you got complete peace of mind that you're not
That's right.
issues.
That's right. And as far as the jump start part goes, if you can run a parallel battery with your cranking battery, which would be a house battery. A lot of people like to do that and run all their electronics off that battery, and then have a cranking battery next to it. You can do that. A lot of options. Now, if you want to run the 3 12 volts, it's fine. The balancing the batteries is not an issue because all the chargers are single bank chargers, and they're all supposed to charge it to a certain point, which would be your balancing anyway.
Gotcha.
And so it's not like a single charger trying to charge 36 and then having the balancer wires going to it like you would like a RC car. Okay. There's no need for that because you have multiple bank chargers, and now they're set up for lithium, like the Minn Kota Pro Series is set up for lithium now, so it's got a setting to charge those. So I'm not concerned about balance. But yeah, it is true that they don't recommend putting like a lead acid battery in there with your lithiums.
Yeah.
So what we've been doing is we keep a bunch of 12 volts in stock, the Battleborns, and now our Minn Kota's not Minn Kota themselves, but the company does the representation for Minn Kota is representing those Battleborn batteries now. So we get our turnaround is a lot better. So what we do is just give you another battery and put this one, ship this one back, and they send us another battery. So it kind of makes it. I mean, it's pain in the butt if you live far away and you need to come get a battery.
Right.
But it's been working. So.
Right.
And we hadn't seen a lot of issues out of those batteries. Most of the people that have issues with those batteries are people that are in rough water, and they have a tendency of beating their boats up. So, but if you do get lithiums, I would suggest putting pads underneath the batteries, because that's what we've seen the most of is the cases crack and get moisture in them. And they don't, and those battery measurement units do not like the moisture. So. All the ones we sell now, I've got a bunch of rubber pads that I bought, and I'm putting rubber pads under every one of them, and that seems to be fixing some of those issues. And that's kind of current. So if you bought one from us 2 months ago and you don't have rubber pads, that's because we just started doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do some preventive stuff. I figured less vibration, less problems.
Well, and just when you think you've been doing it forever and you know everything, come up with new stuff to try.
You got to evolve.
So, which, I mean, that's kind of with the whole house battery for starting, I mean, that's not really been that big of a concern on a bass boat to have a whole extra house battery, but now with electronics and all that kind of stuff.
Like skeeters, they have a built-in, they have a built-in switch that just transfers it to your crank or one of your trolling batteries, and that helps supplement.
All right.
If your battery goes dead. So.
Let's shift gears to some trailer. Y'all have any solutions for the Easy Loader trailer brake issue? Normally, just put the key in the slot because when I try to back up the trailer, brakes lock up.
Okay, well, more than likely it's a blown fuse on your truck. I see 90% of the time when these things are locking up, it's a fuse. So, and keep in mind that the fuses for the trailer side are different on your truck. The fuses for the trailer side are different than the fuses on the truck side. So, and if you have multiple, like if it just keeps blowing the fuse, then there's a little backup solenoid. Okay, and those go bad.
Okay. If
it goes bad, it's shorting the wire to ground, like further up the line of the coil, and it doesn't. It overloads the circuit and it'll blow the fuse. So, but I would check the fuse first. If it keeps blowing that fuse, then you got probably a bad solenoid. So they can be replaced.
Okay, Brandon's saying the fuse is good. I've tried pulling with a different truck and the same thing happens.
Okay,
hey, Brandon, you're asking that question. It sounds like it's like an issue with all Easy Loader trailers or something, or is that just?
Well,
I know the kind of when I first read your question, Brandon, I thought you were talking about like, hey, Easy Loader's got
the problem,
got an issue going on, with their trailers. I don't know.
Well, it's pretty much across the board. A lot of different trailer companies use that, but yeah, if it's not the fuse, then more than likely the solenoid's not getting power. Which there's a blue wire that runs from the part that connects to your truck or to at least the adapter to your truck. There's a blue wire that runs all the way back to that solenoid. And so it could be that it's disconnected, cut in half, or it's bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a common problem, but usually, somewhere in there it's either a bad fuse, a bad connection. I've even seen corrosion on the 7-pin. The piece you're actually putting in somebody's truck or your truck be an issue. But I would follow that blue wire back. You can actually jump voltage to it and a ground, to the ground, the white wire. And if it backs up that way, then at least your solenoid's good. But if it doesn't back up after that, then more than likely you've got either a broken connection on the blue wire or you've got a bad solenoid.
All right. Well, Brandon, I hope that helps. All right. Any insight on flashing a new Yamaha Show 200? Looking to go to 4 blade for lift and keep speed in upper 50s on an Avid 23FS. Bad idea or not?
Well, if it's got warranty, it's a bad idea. If it doesn't have warranty, I guess I probably need to say it's a bad idea, but I'd probably do it. So, or you could just, I mean, what are you trying to flash it to? 250? 225? 300?
So, and what are you trying to get out of? So you want to get the speed in the upper 50s on an Avid 23FS. So a big old center console.
Yeah. Oh, he's going 300. Okay. Well, I mean, there's no. As far as the engines go, between the 200 and the 300 all the way through, the main difference is the computer. The 300 offshore may be just a little bit different because of how the size of it and what it's pushing. So the torque curve could be a little bit different, but I'm pretty sure who is it? Hydrotech, I guess. Hydrotech does it. So if it's out of warranty, you can get them to do it. If it's in warranty, I would say I wouldn't do it because it can void your warranty. So,
yeah. So one thing I'm curious about: do you have a hydraulic jack plate on the boat? What other stuff have you done to try and max out performance on there? So, and you'd be surprised, like if you've got graphs mounted on the front and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you got to, even with that center console, you've already got a giant sail in the middle.
Yeah.
So,
but 100 horsepower always helps.
Yeah.
And like anything else, I will say this, that anytime you go higher on the horsepower, you are reducing the life of that engine. Whether you like it or not, but it is fun. But you will reduce the life of that engine.
It's fun. Well, that's just true. All right, can't argue with that logic. All right, guys, let's see here. Covered that one. I got a couple of others in here. And y'all keep them coming. Appreciate the questions. Curious for those that have used the Yamaha fogging oil mixed with 2 gallons of gas, running it through the motor. Does that foul up the spark plugs? Meaning, should I plan to change spark plugs in the winter? After the winter, or cleaning process that spraying the fogging oil directly, or is it cleaner process
I will have to
spray
that fogging oil is not designed to be mixed with gas because you're just going to burn it out. The fogging oil is designed to shoot into the intake and pretty much almost stall the engine. Okay, so will it foul the plugs? It can. It doesn't necessarily do that, but it is designed to coat those cylinders.
Okay.
And the reason we do it running is to get it all over the place, and then we want it to shut down while it's still spraying in there. And what that does is coats the cylinders. And if you, once it's dead, you can pull the stop lanyard and turn it over, and it'll splash it around in there some more. But the main thing what we're wanting to do is to coat the cylinders with oil.
Okay.
And that just what we're doing is preventing rust.
Okay.
So freshwater areas, it's not as critical. If you're in salt water, you want to do that for sure. But it's not. I wouldn't recommend mixing it with the gas because you're just going to burn it out.
All right.
Pretty quick. So.
Does it foul if you just fog? Does that
it can
impact on your?
Yeah, it can. I would not be surprised if it did, but I hadn't seen it a lot, especially on a 4-stroke.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But if you got it in there real good and you was smoking real good and it shut down, I mean it could. Yeah.
All right.
It could.
All right, Jamie. Actually, got a couple questions in there. I have a 25 pitch Tempest. Would go into a 24 Fury, increase speed on a 250 Optimax.
It could. I would think that you would probably, and now that I think about the previous question, most of the time, if you want to stay around the same RPM, the 25 and the 24, I think is going to put you around the same RPM.
Okay.
I'll tell you, like I tell most people that ask that question here or want me to put a prop on for them here, is that you don't know until you put it on and go run it. I've had some boats that, matter of fact, I've had some Falcons that came with a 24 Fury, and I put a 23 Tempest on it, and it woke that boat up, especially the older 205s. And so, and then I've had some that I put, 25s on there or even 24s, and, they run good on top end, but they come out of the hole like a dog. So, depending on your water, depending on what you put in your boat, and you always want to do it based off of, I'm going to put some water in the live well, I'm going to put all my gear in my fat buddy in there, and then we're going to see what it'll do. So, it could increase it. It may hit the rev limiter. You just don't know until you put one on there.
All right. Yeah, unfortunately, that's a less than satisfying answer when we start talking about props.
Yeah, but if you got one that somebody's got to use one that's been redone, I would shy away from getting that prop. It would probably need to be brand new out of the box.
Gotcha. All right. Lithium batteries, are they the way to go for tournament fishing? Pros and cons.
So here's the pros is if something happens to your motor and you need to troll a long way, they do really good with that. They'll troll just long periods of time, and they'll troll that same speed for long periods of time. And you probably get twice as much, troll time out of a lithium battery. The downside, which we were talking about earlier, if you have one of them go bad, then you need another battery. Unless you can got somebody close by where you can go swap it out, you're pretty much SOL, because you have to send that battery off, and you're down. I actually had a guy 2 weeks ago that happened to, and he traded me 3 lithium batteries for 3 lead acid batteries because he didn't want to have to do that again. And so they're in my boat.
All right, well.
But I can get one real quick if one goes out on me.
Which, one could argue that you could compensate with some of that by running one of the brushless, like the Lowrance or the Garmin, where...
Well, you can swap to 24 volts if you want to.
Obviously you're going to have less thrust on your boat, but that beats being off the water for, while you're hunting around batteries.
So like that, a lot of it depends on that. So.
But what kind of failure rates? I guess now we've had lithiums.
It's not huge. It's not huge, but the same people. I see the same people coming in. There's and I got 5 of them right now. I will know by the middle of the season that we'll be bringing a battery in. So it's like clockwork.
All right.
So, but it's those 5 guys, and I've got more of them out there, and I don't see a lot of failures, but those guys are failing them.
So let's touch on real quick, because this is one that everybody wants to talk about. Do you get more performance out of your boat with the lithium because you got less weight?
It depends. Okay, so if you've got like a FXR, if you've got a boat with a tank under your seats, you're more than likely going to lose speed if you put lithium batteries in. Now my FX, the older series, like 2013. I hadn't taken it out, but I have a feeling I'm going to probably gain some speed, because if you lighten the back end of those up, they usually get faster. But you lighten the back end of a ZXR or FXR, it's either not going to matter or it's going to slow it down.
Okay.
So it's a good time to put your spare prop back there and, maybe a duffel bag with some tools in it.
All right.
Yeah.
Which... you can argue if you run a 136 volt, it's going to take up less space, and you got more room to put things like tools and spare props and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that helps, Jamie.
It hadn't hurt the Falcons.
Yeah. I will say, in terms of tournament fishing, you got a lot of pros that are going and relying on more and more lithium.
But most of those guys, like even Matt Herron, he's got 3 lithiums and 2 North Stars. So he's got plenty of weight back there now. And he was putting a spare prop back there, but now he's putting it in where the trash can is. So.
All right. Back to the fogging. Trevor's throwing out there. He used Marvel Mystery Oil to fog old Mercruiser.
Yeah.
All right.
Works for me.
Did you put that in a Yamaha?
I mean, it just depends on how you get it in there. Mercruiser, you just dump it straight down in the hole. With Yamaha, you got to be strategic, and you keep that in mind too. When if you got single throttle body, engines.
Yeah.
And you're spraying fogging oil in there, you're just fogging maybe the bottom two, probably just the bottom cylinder.
All right.
So you have to be strategic in how you do it.
I think Trevor's throwing in. We're talking weight and balance here. Puma STS likes the weight reduction since it has two 32-gallon tanks.
And they're in the back.
So
Usually the boats had the weight in the back already, the tanks back there. It'll improve those. But if you got a mid tank, they have to balance that fulcrum of that boat a certain way, and they base it off of having heavy batteries back there.
My guess is that we're going to see more and more boats more designed to have less weight than the stern.
Yeah.
With more and more of the lithium battery.
But you can always take some of the guys that are running lithiums are doing 2-inch offsets to counter the weight. They'll put that motor just a little bit further back, and it'll bring your weight back towards the back a little bit more.
Well, I know when you're talking about maximizing boat performance, Matt Herring's I've done so many videos with him and asked that and answered that question with him. I mean, he will beat the drum about weight and balance the boat the right way. Makes a huge difference. So I mean, he's had people that run the same FXRs that are having they're getting 5 miles an hour less than he does, and you jump in, for one thing, they've got everything including the kitchen sink, and it's all over the place.
The more weight, especially more weight you put up front, putting graphs. You got people putting 3 graphs up there, and you got a big trolling motor up there. The more stuff you put in there, the slower your boat's going to be because you're pushing the nose into the water.
All right, Shane, Falcon 195 issue and taking off 200 Pro XS with a Tempest, 22 Tempest, extreme bow lift on takeoff. Any good direction to start? I always take off trim all the way down. Thanks for the info.
Well, the Falcon is an extreme bow lift kind of boat. Now, they have improved that in the newer models. So even the 205 this year, they've come with they've got these little cutouts, indentions in the back of the sponsons back there. And I don't know what the science is behind them, but they really help with hole shot. And so I think Dano's new boat this year has got really good hole shot. The one from last year was, not great.
Right.
But nose stands up in the air and then finally falls over. But that's kind of been the signature of a Falcon, unfortunately. The question is it just stay there and then finally break over, or is it just standing straight up and then finally breaking over? If it's doing that, then that's unfortunately normal for that boat. Like I said, they have improved it. I don't know if they've done that on the 195 yet, but I know they've done it on the 205, the TE, the Tournament Edition, and the Predator. So the only other thing you can do is like we were talking about earlier, is put your weight in strategic areas. I think probably the more weight in the front of that boat would probably help it get up on plane. If you have a hydraulic jack plate, you can jack it up just a little bit and then take off. I know a guy that we've been working with. He's got a 195, and we actually raised the motor up just a little bit, and that seemed to help his.
Okay.
So you just have to play with that. So, and I think the 22 is about where you need to be on that boat for hole shot and performance. But you could, if you got too big of plugs in the boat in the prop, you could probably pop a plug out and maybe it will, do a little bit better.
All right.
Try that.
Well, Shane, I hope that helps. All right. Prop inventory any better nationwide?
I think a little bit. A little bit.
Little bit.
A Aluminum's real easy to get. Throw one of those on there.
Yeah. All right. Anything different I should be doing during the winter as far as a Yamaha additive HPDI, or just keep it the same as always, 1 ounce per 10 gallons?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be storing it a little bit more in the winter, I would just put some stable in it too. Maybe some Startron. Just don't go crazy with it, you know. And if you store it for a long period of time, you know, more than a month, I would get as much gas out as possible. You know,
All right.
we're going with the least amount of gas as possible these days, just because all the additives and stuff in that gas, it just deteriorates so fast now. It's just we want to get as much of it out as possible, especially on HPDIs because they can be a little volatile, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Shane, glad we could give you some info. And I will say with that 195, if you need help remotely, obviously love to have you bring the boat up here, and I'm sure they'd take a look at it and work with you. Like he said, he's already working. I mean, I know that 195, particularly on that top end.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of a booger to drive, but once you get used to it, it's pretty easy.
But always, if you need to, pick up the phone and give us a shout and see if we can talk you through any more detail or specifics with your situation. So, all right. So, man, 40 minutes we've been going. So it's been awesome. Thanks for all the good questions. If you got another one, you can drop it in there and we'll get to it. But I want to throw this one out. We've been talking big motors. I saw this in the Yamaha group. 2-stroke, 15 horsepower. Runs great for about 1 mile until it warms up. Then starts sputtering and quits. It won't start until the engine is cooled off.
Okay.
What might cause this?
I would say on those, being a 2-stroke, that means it's probably got a CDI unit or it's got the CDI coils on it. More than likely, I mean, it's like if it's got a power pack, it's probably the power pack. Okay. If it doesn't have a power pack, it's got the CDI coils on it, and it's probably one of those. Usually electrical, it could be the stator too, but the electrical components, that's pretty much, the go-to on those. If once you get warmed up and you're moving and it shuts off and won't crank back up again, you've got some kind of electrical issue. Now I've seen on those, mainly the 25s, not the 15s, but it's the same concept. I've seen there's a ground wire that's, on the block. I've seen those get loose over time, over vibration, and that can cause that same issue. Because if it doesn't have a ground, that whole system won't work.
Gotcha. All right. Well,
so it could be a trigger too, but more than likely the fact that it just goes completely dead. Triggers usually kill one cylinder. Stator's going to kill all of them. Power pack most of the time is going to kill them all, especially if it's a 2-cylinder. So I would go with something like that.
All right. Like I said, trying to squeeze it. Give a little love to the the smaller motors, the John Boat, the Duck Hunters.
Yeah.
Like Pat in our parts department. He gets tired of talking about.
He's got me working on his. He's got me working on his 2 horsepower right now.
Oh, nice.
From 1984.
Probably doesn't have any electrical issues, does it?
No, it doesn't want to idle. But.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much. Thanks for everything for 2022. If you've been a customer, that's awesome, and certainly huge appreciation. That's what keeps us going. And even if you're just tuning in and watching and getting help, we love that too. So, love to have you stop in. Again, we're closing up this weekend. For the rest of the year, be back open the second week in January for regular hours. And before you know it, blink of an eye, we're going to be
January.
Be the end of January, and we're going to be doing a full-blown. The season will be starting. Yep. So let us know whatever we can do to help you. Again, if we're closed, send us a message, text us. It's probably your best bet that you might get an answer. No promises, but every now and again, somebody gets lucky and they get some help when they need it. So, all right, guys, y'all have a great week, a great rest of the year. Merry Christmas. And we'll catch you next year.
Hey, we got our Christmas colors on.
Yeah, we didn't even plan that. So, all right, guys, y'all take it easy. Thank you again.